Welcome to the Nocturne Gallery. Today we are stepping into the Japanese floating world, but we're looking at a part of it that feels, well, intensely psychological, almost modern.
We're looking at art that wasn't just about capturing beauty, but about revealing the inner life of the person.
And the artist at the center of this is Kitagawa Utamaro.
Yes, active during the classical ukiyo-e period, roughly 1753 to 1806. He's often called the singer of female beauty, the master of Bijin-ga. But, just saying that really misses the point of what he did.
Right, it misses the revolution. So that's our goal here, to get past that idea of just idealized beauty and really understand what he did differently.
Exactly. The technical innovations, the shift in focus, and how he ended up having this massive influence on art in Europe a whole century later.
Okay, so to set the stage, Utamaro was the guy, the leading artist of his era.
He was, and his career, his rise was sort of engineered. In the early 1780s, he was backed by this hugely influential publisher, Tsutai Juzabaru.
So he had a powerful champion.
Oh, the most powerful.
Yeah.
And Juzabaru specifically promoted Utamaro as a rival to the big name at the time, Tori Kiyanaga. Utamaro was meant to be the disruptor.
And he delivered.
He absolutely did. He completely changed what a portrait could be.
Okay, let's unpack that because it all seems to start with one key innovation. The okubi-e.
The Kubi.
Yeah.
It literally translates to big heads or bust portraits. And you have to remember the context here.
What was the norm before him?
Before Utamaro, most prints were full figure or group scenes. They were interested in character type. The ideal woman, the perfect courtesan, the latest fashion. It was almost like a catalog.
And Utamaro basically just threw the catalog out. He zoomed in.
Dramatically, he changed the entire frame.
Yeah.
The okubi-e format forces you to look at just the face and the upper torso. And when you do that, the artist has to focus on these really subtle things.
Like what?
The precise shape of a face, the way the hair is pinned, even the way the hands might be positioned to hide or, reveal something.
So that technical choice, that tight framing, it has this huge psychological effect.
It's revolutionary. I mean, it lets him move beyond just idealization. He's not painting the perfect type of woman anymore. He's suddenly interested in the unique qualities of one person.
And their specific emotional state in that one moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's forcing the viewer to confront her inner life. The women in his prints feel closer, more real.
More human.
Exact. You see everything in those faces. Sadness, joy, deep anxiety, a kind of peaceful calm. If you look at his Big Head series from around 1790, that's it. That's the shift. He redefined beauty by connecting it to individual feeling.
But wait a second. If the whole point of ukiyo-e was the floating world, the latest trends, the fashion, wasn't this focus on internal emotion a bit counterintuitive? Do people actually want that depth?
That is a fantastic question, and that's his genius. He didn't get rid of the fashion, he just used it as a backdrop for the emotion. His work got incredibly popular because it was so intimate.
So it felt like you were getting a secret glimpse into someone's world.
Right. Kiyanaga gave you perfection. Utamaro gave you a private moment. In a society as controlled as Edo, Japan, that kind of emotional honesty, that was thrilling. It felt real.
So if the kubi was the big idea, how did his actual technique, his style, support that focus?
Well, the first thing that jumps out is his use of abstraction. Artists like Kiyanaga were aiming for a kind of realism, putting figures in detailed, recognizable places.
Utamaro strips all that away.
Completely. The background is often just gone. Or it's a flat, neutral color like a shimmering mica. And that's a deliberate choice.
To keep your attention from wandering off the figure.
There's nowhere else to look. It's a very modern way of thinking. He's using negative space to amplify the emotion in the portrait.
Which must have meant his line work had to be perfect. The figure has to stand on its own without any context.
It did. And his lines are so smart. He uses these incredibly fine, delicate contour lines for the face and the hands.
Drawing your eye right there.
Exactly. But then for the clothing, the kimono, the lines are much wider, much stronger. It creates this instant visual contrast that says, the important stuff, the feeling, is happening here.
Delicate for the emotion, strong for the structure. I love that.
And he even took it a step further. Sometimes he'd abandon the contour line completely. He'd just create form using blocks of color.
Wow.
Yeah, which is an incredibly advanced technique for a woodblock print. It allowed him to create all these different moods just with color rhythm alone.
Now, I've read that his style, it changed pretty dramatically later on, after the 1790s. What happened?
It did. After the peak of his success, his style shifted toward, exaggeration. The simplicity gave way to these really stretched, fanciful proportions.
You mean the figures got taller?
Incredibly tall, almost elongated. Some critics were pretty harsh, calling them spindle-legged monstrosities.
That sounds like he lost that amazing psychological balance he'd found.
I think he did, a little. It's been called an unhealthy aestheticism. It was less about inner truth and more about this heightened, dramatic, sometimes even bizarre sense of beauty. He was probably responding to a market that just kept demanding something new and more sensational.
The pressure to stay on top in the floating world must have been immense. It makes you wonder if he found a purer form of expression elsewhere, because he didn't just stick to the Bijin-ga, did he?
Oh, not at all. He was prolific. He created these luxurious illustrated books on nature. The Book of Insects from 1788 is just stunning.
So applying that same intense focus to nature.
Exactly the same. You see the same rigorous attention to line and form on the wing of a beetle that you see on a woman's face. He also did illustrations for kabuki plays, historical stories, and even parodies.
Parodies, what were those like?
They were called mitete. It was sort of an intellectual game. He would take a famous historical story or a classical theme and recast it with contemporary courtesans or tea house waitresses.
So it was like saying, these women are the heroes of our time.
That's a great way to put it. But if we're talking about pure emotional exploration, we have to look at his series, Poems on Love.
Yes, the Kazenkoi no Bu, a total masterclass.
It is. Each print explores a different facet of love, the one called sad love or mono omukoi. It's just pure feeling. The tilt of the head, the expression, it's all there.
And then there's the painted scroll by the Akutagawa River. That one feels different, deeper, almost personal.
It's an incredible work, and it fuses different styles. The bold lines of Ukiyoe with the softer, more classical feel of Yamatoe. The story itself is from the 10th century tales of eyes about fleeing lovers. It's an allegory for danger, for difficult choices.
And the symbolism in the painting is just packed with meaning.
It really is. The woman has cherry blossom sakura on her dress, and you see fallen petals on the riverbank. And that's not just decoration.
No, sakura is all about the brevity of life, right? Of youth and beauty. Transience.
The quintessential Japanese concept of transience. And this brings us to the timing of its creation, which adds this whole other layer. It's heartbreaking.
What was going on in his life then?
It was a terrible time. His publisher, his great champion, Tsutai Yuzabu, had died. And then in 1804, Utamaro himself got into serious trouble.
This is the political downfall. He was arrested. What was the charge?
Sedition, essentially. He created prints depicting the wife and concubines of a former military ruler, Toyotomi Hideyoshi.
But Hideyoshi had been dead for centuries. Why was that such a crime?
Because it was seen as challenging the authority of the current government, the Tokugawa shogunate. By depicting figures from a rival power structure, he was seen as undermining the legitimacy of the rulers of his day.
Wow.
He was sentenced to 50 days of confinement. It completely broke his spirit, shattered his health, and he died soon after in 1806.
A brilliant life cut short because his art was just too powerful. Okay, let's widen the frame one last time. How does this artist from Edo, whose career ends so tragically, end up impacting art across the entire globe?
Well, the influence was immediate once his work was discovered in the West. His prints were some of the very first examples of Japanese art to arrive in Europe.
And they land right in the middle of this huge cultural shift.
They helped create it. Japonism, the Impressionist movement. You can't talk about them without talking about ukiyo-e. But with Utamaro, the influence was really specific, especially on one artist.
You're talking about Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec.
Toulouse-Lautrec in Paris. The connection is so clear.
What is it exactly? It's more than just the subject matter of nightlife, isn't it?
So much more. Lautrec adopted Utamaro's compositional tricks. That sharp close-up cropping, the flat planes of color, the way he uses empty space to create drama, that sense of an intimate, psychological portrait that you see in the smoky dance halls of Paris.
Is a direct echo of an okubi-e from a tea house in Edo.
It's a direct echo. It's amazing to think that a woodblock print from the 1790s provided the blueprint for the look of the Moulin Rouge a century later.
And his popularity even led to some confusion after he died, right?
It did. The demand for his work was so high that a student of his actually took the name Utamaro II, married his widow, and kept making prints in his style. It muddied the waters for scholars for a long, long time.
So, to wrap this up, Utamaro's true mastery was taking Bijinga, the art of beautiful women, and making it psychological.
I think so. He shifted the focus from a generalized, perfect ideal to a deeply specific individual feeling. He perfected the art of conveying a soul through a portrait.
And in the end, that skill for showing individual character was so sharp that it got him arrested. It was seen as a threat to the state.
Which leaves us with this powerful question to think about. In a world where art was supposed to be about capturing fleeting pleasure, what happens when an artist gets so good that his work starts to challenge history, to challenge power itself?
Right. If he hadn't been silenced by politics, what other boundaries would he have pushed? What else would he have shown us about the human heart if he'd only been given the chance?
What might he have revealed? Yeah. Something to consider as you look into those faces.